Baby, bye, bye, bye.
Forget Deadpool. World War II had a real-life superhero. Mad Jack Churchill fought Nazis with a sword, a longbow, and bagpipes, and survived it all. Churchill was part of an English family from Oxfordshire, whose roots dated back to the 16th century. He was born in 1906 in Ceylon, now known as Sri Lanka, while his father, who worked for the British Colonial Service, had settled there with his family, later also living in Hong Kong. Only in 1917 did the family move back to England. After finishing school, Jack began his military career. He graduated from the famous Royal Military Academy Sandhurst in 1926, shortly after joining the historic Manchester Regiment, in which his younger brother Tom would later also serve. Jack's military service began in the British colony of Burma. There he spent much of his free time on his motorcycle, riding from place to place, even driving more than 2,000 kilometers across India. After attending a required signaling course, Jack, a free spirit by nature, fully embodied the definition of an adventurer. It was during his early years in the British Army that he developed his signature interest and skill with the bagpipes, learning tunes from soldiers of the Cameron Highlanders, one of the famous British infantry regiments of the time. On his return to England, he began appearing in films, sometimes playing the bagpipes and other times using his longbow, an ancient weapon he had started to master. After returning from Burma, destiny would take him back once more, this time to fight in the Burmese Rebellion of 1930 to 1932. But once the conflict ended, Jack felt his military life was somewhat unfulfilling. During the 1930s, in addition to acting in films, he left the army in 1936 to work for a newspaper in Kenya. At the same time, he kept training with the longbow. When we say longbow, we mean a weapon nearly 2 meters in length. His skill with it even earned him a place on the British archery team at the 1939 World Archery Championships in Oslo, Norway. But shortly afterward, World War II broke out, and Jack, without hesitation or complaint, rejoined the front as second in command of his company. Jack began fighting in 1940, moving through Holland, Belgium, and France. From the start, he approached combat with his own bold style. Beyond his weapons, military equipment, and bagpipes, he was a natural strategist, organizing exceptional raids with small teams. His leadership abilities did not go unnoticed, and when his company commander was injured, Jack replaced him. It was during this time that Jack carried out his most famous feat. Churchill and his battalion were positioned on high ground in a French village when they spotted an enemy patrol approaching. From his hidden position, Jack saw a unique opportunity to fire an arrow from his longbow, striking a soldier at around 27 meters. However, his time in Europe was interrupted later that year. After the Battle of Dunkirk, Allied forces were driven back to Britain. Jack didn't see this as a setback, nor did his brother Tom. Back in England, both joined the newly formed British Commandos, an elite unit created during World War II to carry out operations behind enemy lines. By late 1941, after completing training, Jack joined No. 2nd Commando Brigade and took part in the assault on a German garrison in northern Norway. He led 2 companies against German anti-aircraft batteries on the island of Vågsøy and did it in his own way, arriving in the bay under heavy fire while playing his bagpipes. Upon landing, he charged the enemy wielding his sword, leading his men to take the island. All this in the middle of World War II. 2 years later in Italy, Jack and the British Commandos joined another critical mission. This time they were expected to act as regular infantry, something commandos weren't specifically designed for. The objective was Salerno Bay, where German artillery held a key position. In what was expected to be a disastrous mission with many casualties, Jack proved his nerves of steel. His decisive move came when he organized his troops into 6 separate columns and had them charge at night, yelling war cries. This tactic confused the Germans, who couldn't determine their attackers' exact numbers or position, while the commandos could identify each other in the dark. The position was taken, and over 100 German soldiers were captured, 42 by Jack himself. His actions in this battle earned him the Distinguished Service Order. The following year, Jack and his commandos were deployed to Yugoslavia as part of Operation Macallan, the British plan to establish contact with partisan leader Marshal Tito. With commandos under his command, plus 1,000 partisans, and RAF and Royal Navy personnel, Jack was placed in charge of the island of Vis, now in Croatia, the last free zone outside German control. Once again, Jack led from the front. During one offensive, after storming a heavily defended hill, only Jack and 3 other commandos remained alive and able to fight. Still, he continued, leading them with his bagpipes until they were all killed or wounded, except Jack, who, finding himself alone, once again played his pipes until he was captured. Captured by the Germans, he faced the infamous Commando Order, which dictated no mercy for captured British commandos. But his life was spared by Wehrmacht Captain Werner, who honorably argued that Churchill and his men were soldiers after all. Interrogated, the Germans suspected Jack was related to Prime Minister Winston Churchill due to his surname, and so sent him to a POW camp. Jack escaped with another officer, but was recaptured shortly before reaching the sea. Transferred to Austria, he escaped again, carefully stockpiling supplies and exploiting an electrical failure at the camp. He marched south, eventually reaching Verona, Italy, where he encountered an American convoy that helped him. By then, the war in Europe was over. Still, he returned to Burma, only to hear news of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which ended the war. 3 years later, Jack once again saw action, this time in British Palestine, during a turbulent period of conflict between Arabs and Jews following the UN partition proposal. In one incident, a convoy of civilians was ambushed. Jack and his 12 men were the first reinforcements to arrive, offering to escort the civilians. They refused, choosing instead to wait for Jewish defense reinforcements. Jack's men covered them with fire, but couldn't prevent heavy losses. 78 civilians were killed. The next day, however, Jack helped evacuate 700 civilians from a hospital. In Jerusalem, the street leading to that hospital still bears his name. This was the end of his career as a soldier, though he later served as an instructor at the Australian Army's War School. In Australia, he took up surfing, another lifelong passion, alongside his bagpipes. In conclusion, Jack Churchill was twice awarded the Distinguished Service Order, but truthfully, Mad Jack was not a conventional soldier. When once asked by a general why he carried a sword in modern times, Jack answered with his now famous motto, "Any officer who goes into action without his sword is improperly dressed." Despite all his achievements, his military career only took him to the rank of lieutenant colonel, the highest rank for a field soldier in the British Army. Perhaps that's all he wanted, a free spirit, one of those soldiers who appear only once every 100 years. Jack Churchill passed away on March 8, 1996, at the age of 89. He was eccentric, without a doubt, yet his eccentricity never conflicted with his honor as a soldier or his commitment to duty. Mad Jack Churchill lived war with zero fucks given, charging Nazis with a sword, blasting bagpipes under fire, and escaping POW camps like it was all part of the plan. He didn't just fight the war, he bent it to his own madness. And this is only one chapter in the Unknown Files, where history's wildest, craziest, and most impossible stories refuse to stay buried. Hit the next video because the madness doesn't end here.